And that brings us to the main event here for UFC Fight Night. Sterling taking on Zalal. And we've got Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling, the former bantamweight champion, taking on Youssef, the Moroccan Devil Zalal. And if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button as we break this one down. And give me Zalal in this matchup. This guy's been on an absolute ascendancy since joining or rejoining the UFC. Obviously still only 29 years old. And I think at this weight class and at this current moment in time, I like Zalal to make a nice title run here. And obviously a big step up in competition here, taking on Funkmaster Sterling. But let's talk about Zalal. He has nice movement on the outside, very light on his feet. And I think the speed difference here is going to be a factor. And if you look at Aljamain Sterling, although he has good wrestling, I think on the feet, Zalal is going to be too quick, too sharp with good footwork here. And I think that's going to be the real factor in this matchup. Obviously, Aljamain Sterling, he wants to look to get you to the ground. He has that funky style of wrestling and also a very unorthodox way of striking as well. He wants to be able to take you to the ground. He wants to be able to take your back, kind of sink in the rear naked choke. He wants to get in the hooks and control you from there. And I think realistically, this fight's going to be a tale of two halves. I think we're going to see Sterling ultimately get some takedowns, but I do think that Zalal's grappling is really heavily improved, and he's talked about that in previous matchups since rejoining in the UFC, that he's worked heavily on his wrestling, he's worked heavily on his grappling, and I think that he's going to do a good job here of creating scrambles to get back to his feet, standing obviously 3 inches taller than Aljamain Sterling here. I do think that size here at this weight class, obviously Aljamain, a former bantamweight, might play a factor, especially when it comes to going for takedowns against the taller Zalal. We know it's a lot harder to take down some of these taller opponents, and I do think that Zalal here has decent scrambles to be able to get back to his feet. He just needs to be mindful of giving up his back against a guy like Aljamain Sterling, which we've seen in the past be able to backpack people, along with finding those rear naked chokes. So as long as Youssef Zalal does a good job of being, mindful of giving up his back in scrambles, I think he should be absolutely fine here. We saw in Zalal's, one of his recent performances, darting around on the outside against Calvin Kattar, circling. He made that fight boring, but let's be honest, that's going to be a great style here against a guy like Aljamain Sterling, who's going to pressure forward, look to back him up against the fence, and ultimately shoot in for blast doubles. He has a nice timed knee, Zalal. He has a nice jab. I think he's going to be faster, more crisp on the feet, and I think if he can stuff some takedowns here, he'll win this one on the judges' scorecards based off of damage, based off of, the kind of winning the striking exchanges. He just needs to basically fight a smart fight here against Aljamain Sterling. Don't throw spinning attacks, kind of leave the kicks at home. Stick to the boxing and create scrambles with your jiu-jitsu here. Keep this one on the feet, ultimately winning a unanimous decision here. I could see maybe Sterling winning a round, maybe two, with his wrestling, but ultimately I think it's going to be the footwork and the speed of Youssef Zalal here to get this one done. I think, since this guy's been in the UFC, he's obviously finishing lower level guys, and obviously, you could argue that Josh Emmett isn't necessarily on the best trend right now, but Zalal's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's coming in, he's finishing guys on the feet, he's finishing them on the ground. Obviously a guy that's confident, a guy that is, on an ascendancy in the UFC. Aljamain Sterling at 36 years old, bantamweight or featherweight, you don't really want to be backing guys at 36 years old at these smaller weight classes. And I think that Zalal here is going to ride that momentum here into another victory with another decent name under his belt. And let's see who Carlos has got in this matchup.
Okay, in this one, I'm going to take Aljamain Sterling to get it done. I think that Youssef Zalal, he can use the same tactics he's been using since his return to the UFC. He can stay outside, use the speed, use the accuracy, land from the outside, pot shotting and circling around the cage, forcing Aljo to chase him, but, and land into something heavy. But, Aljo's fought good strikers before. And what he's done before in the past to get past the striking is he would just use high volume. He would outstrike the striker, and he doesn't make it a brawl. What he does is he just throws more strikes to close the distance and get inside and then look for those takedowns. But lateral movement of Zalal is going to cause a huge problem for that. He's going to make it very difficult for Sterling to keep him in one spot. And what I think is, for Sterling to be able to close the distance, to cut off the cage, he's going to have to start attacking the legs early. He's going to have to force Zalal to be able to endure those kicks and have to keep that movement and have to don't go to the body too much. Somebody as fast as Zalal, as soon as you change levels to go to the body with strikes, he's going to attack. That counter is going to be there. and he's too quick to do that. But what you can do is use your lower body, use the kicks, attack the leg, attack the body with your legs, and pressure, more volume, close the distance, force him into the clinch, and then impose your game. And since Aljo's been able to do that, once it gets to the ground, I feel that Aljo's not going to get the finish right away or at all, because Zalal's very educated on the ground and he can scramble and he has good hips on the ground. But I feel that Sterling's not going to get a lot of ground and pound, on the ground. He's going to have to close all the gaps and keep himself tight and keep the top pressure, the hip pressure down on Zalal. So it might be that he's going to win the rounds by control, but at some point Zalal's going to slow down. When you're attacking the legs and you're forcing him to grapple, he's going to slow down a little bit, and I think that's going to play into Aljo. And they call him the Funk Master for a reason, because in wrestling, when they say you have the funk, that's that strength that they can't explain. And once Aljo gets a hold of you, you're going to have a hard time getting the separation, getting the distance. And I feel that Aljo, it's going to happen. He's not a slow guy. He's a good athlete. He's going to be able to close the distance. He's done it before, not against someone with the speed and change of direction like Zalal, because Zalal can kind of stop on a dime and change directions. But I think if you attack the legs early, which Aljo is most likely going to do, and just come in with high volume, forcing Zalal to step back, and when you're fighting backwards, it's to the other fighter's advantage. And I feel that Aljo's going to be able to close that distance, and he's going to be able to control Youssef Zalal. So I'm going to take Aljamain Sterling to get this one done for those reasons.